He was an example for the entire school, a teacher who was never late, who knew how to interest the most hopeless students. There was silence in his class, not out of fear, but out of respect. His parents said that he was one of those who truly loved his job. He knew the names of all the students, their fears, dreams, problems. He knew too much. It was this knowledge that became a weapon. His name was Oleg Nikolaevich. 38 years old, 2 higher educations, a reputation as an ideal teacher. He was respected, trusted. Even the director called him the school's pillar. No one could have imagined that he would become a defendant in a case that would later be called Case Number. First, teacher in the police archive. The first to disappear was an 11th grader named Danila, a quiet, smart guy from a family of businessmen. According to his mother, he went to school and never returned. His parents contacted the police, but there were no traces, neither on the street nor on the internet. His phone ended up in the river 2 days later. CCTV cameras didn't record anything. It was as if he'd disappeared. The police suspected an escape, then a kidnapping, but no one demanded ransom for Danila, not a single lead, until his class teacher, Oleg Nikolaevich, came into view. Danila often stayed with him after school, preparing for Olympiads, asking for advice on studying, and one day, shortly before his disappearance, he confided in the teacher. He told him about the money he kept in a crypto wallet. $3 million, an inheritance from his grandfather, his father's savings, and his own savings. He didn't trust banks, and he didn't trust his parents, only the teacher. The flash drive with access to the wallet was kept in his backpack. After he disappeared, the backpack was found empty. Oleg Nikolaevich said during interrogation that he didn't know anything, that the student had simply stopped going. He said he was surprised, and the police let him go. There was no evidence. Only the investigator's intuition told him that he was hiding something. 2 weeks later, the second student disappeared. His name was Maxim. He also studied with Oleg Nikolaevich, and he also stayed late for extra classes. The pattern was the same. He left in the evening and did not return in the morning. His bicycle was found behind the garages. The phone was turned off. His parents were in a panic. The school was in shock. The investigator was furious. He felt that this was not a coincidence. And again, no evidence. The third was Andrei. His disappearance was a turning point. Oleg Nikolaevich tried to explain himself, but this time the police dug deeper. Transfers through offshore companies were found in his bank history. The schemes were disguised, but one transfer, exactly $3 million, went through an anonymous exchange. The investigator contacted the financial service, and it was soon confirmed. Access was obtained from the very wallet that belonged to Danila. But everything became even more complicated when a second person appeared in the case. His name was Pavel. He was Oleg Nikolaevich's business partner. Several years ago, it was he who helped him get out of the debt hole. Together, they launched an educational platform. Pavel invested money, Oleg invested ideas. But the business didn't work out. The teacher returned to school, and Pavel was left with the money. They didn't communicate for a long time. Until one day, Pavel noticed an anomaly. A transfer suddenly appeared in one of his old accounts, small but with a digital signature that they used together. He started digging. He found transactions disguised as purchases of educational software. He followed the threads, and again came across the name of his former partner. He realized that he had stolen the money. Pavel set up a meeting, said that he would give him a chance to return everything. He didn't threaten, he just wanted to make him confess. He didn't know that he had already become a witness, and Oleg Nikolaevich couldn't allow that. They met late at night in an old hangar outside the city. Pavel came with a flash drive and copies of documents. He didn't know that Oleg had a knife in his car. There were no witnesses, no cameras either. But later the investigation will reconstruct the events from fingerprints on the metal, from blood in the canisters, and from the records in the phone. Pavel died, in cold blood, without a fight. But it was he who once saved Oleg from suicide when he thought that his life was over. Then he gave him a chance. Now he got death. Oleg dismembered the body, burned part of it, and threw the rest into the river. He returned home, took a shower. The next day he went to the board again, opened the journal again, and gave grades again. But everything changed when the police received a letter. Pavel, sensing something was wrong, left a flash drive for his friend. It contained copies of all financial transactions and an audio file where he directly says, "If you hear this, it means Oleg killed me." There was enough evidence, but the arrest did not follow immediately. At first, the investigator decided to break him. Surveillance, wiretapping, psychological pressure, and one day Oleg could not stand it. He got drunk. He called a number that was under police control. The conversation was strange. He was talking to himself, justifying himself, cried, repeated that he didn't want to, that they would have turned me in, that there was no way out. This confession was the final link. He was arrested in the morning, during recess. The students looked on, not believing their eyes. He did not resist. He only asked, "Who will teach them now?" He was silent during interrogation. During the trial, too. Only once did he say, "I just wanted to live differently, but I turned out to be weak." He received a life sentence, without the right to parole. A diary was found in his house. In it, a confession, details of the crimes, motivation, panic, remorse. Today they don't talk about him at school. His office was boarded up. His name was erased from the database. The students cannot believe that the person they respected turned out to be a predator. And it all started with trust, with one student, one flash drive, and one teacher who decided that he could take someone else's and not pay. But the truth always finds a way, even if it is hidden by a teacher whom everyone believed. For the entire school, he was an angel in a jacket, a teacher to whom even the most retarded were drawn, a classroom like a temple, discipline, not like a sergeant, but like an older brother. No one suspected that behind the perfect mask hid a man who would later become the central figure in the most high-profile case in the District of Columbia. His name was Oleg Nikolaevich. In the U.S., he was known as Mr. Nolan. 38 years old, 2 diplomas, letters of recommendation from leading universities. In the questionnaires, a model. In life, an example. But behind the facade hid someone who knew too much and used it as a weapon. Danny was the first to disappear, an 11th grader, quiet, smart. His mother is the owner of several pharmacy chains. His father is in the crypto business. The guy trusted no one, except Mr. Nolan. That day he left home with a backpack. He was not supposed to return late, but he never did. 2 days later, his smartphone was found smashed near the city dam. His backpack was in the woods, but without its contents. The flash drive was gone, the same one, according to his father, that contained access to a crypto wallet with $3 million. At first, the police thought it was kidnapping, then voluntary departure. But a network request showed that the crypto was gone, withdrawn through an offshore, run through mixers, laundered, and gone. Everything was done as if it was not a schoolboy who was doing this, but a hacker with 10 years of experience. A teacher came into view. Danny often stayed with him after school. He prepared for the Olympics, participated in clubs. He was a favorite. And most importantly, a couple of days before his disappearance, he told him about the wallet. Mr. Nolan denied everything during interrogation. He behaved calmly. He even joked. Convinced. They let him go. 2 weeks later, the second one disappears. Maximum. He was found later, dead, killed with a blow to the head, the body hidden in the school utility room. No traces except for one, a secret safe. Empty. When the third student, Andrew, goes missing, the investigation comes across a seemingly random detail. In both cases, the children were connected not only to the teacher, but also to money. Small, large, it doesn't matter. They all kept funds in digital wallets, and they all discussed it with Mr. Nolan. The financial trail began to converge. One payment of $3 million went through an offshore and led to an educational platform previously founded by Mr. Nolan and his business partner, Paul Danvers. And that's where the real drama began. Paul was the one who once pulled Oleg out of the hole. When he was on the verge of dismissal, debts, depression, Paul invested money, believed. Together they created digital courses, online programs, tried to enter the market. But the idea failed. They went their separate ways. until one day Paul noticed a strange payment on a debt account. He started digging and came across transactions disguised as purchases of school software. And inside were traces of an old partner. He realized Oleg had stolen a lot, and possibly from minors. Paul called him, said he knew, said he'd give him a chance to get it all back. Without the police, just between them. They met at an old warehouse. There were no cameras. Paul came with a flash drive. It had all the evidence. He didn't know that Nolan had a knife, a coil of rope, and a plastic canister in his trunk. Nolan killed him, in cold blood, without words. And it was this man who had once saved his life. He dismembered the body, burned part, and threw part into the river. He took the flash drive. He went home, changed his clothes. In the morning, he stood at the board again, as if nothing had happened. He even joked in class. Everything changed when the police found a backup copy of the flash drive, the one Paul had left with an old friend in case what if. There were screenshots of wallets, transfer schemes, an audio recording in which Paul says, "If you're listening to this, it means Nolan killed me. He took everything. He's not who he pretends to be." The detectives set up surveillance. They turned on the wiretap. They noticed that Nolan started drinking. One night he called to a number that was already connected to the wiretap. He was talking to himself, repeating, "I didn't want to. They would have turned me in. I couldn't do it any other way. I just wanted to live like a human being." In the morning at 9:45, he was arrested. Right during recess, in front of the students. He didn't resist. He only asked, "Who's going to teach them now?" He was silent in court. He only said once, "I wanted to be someone. I'm tired of being nothing." Today, he's in a maximum security federal prison for life, without the right to parole. His name has been erased from all the school's archives. The office was boarded up. The children were shocked. The parents were furious. And it all started with one trust, with one confession, with one backpack with a flash drive. And the story ended with a phrase that the investigator wrote at the end of his report. If the devil taught at school, he would look exactly like this. Oleg Nikolaevich's office was indeed boarded up. Boards on the windows, a lock on the door, a seal from the administration. But a month later, a guard named Valera reported that sounds could be heard from there at night. The squeak of a marker on a board, the clicks of chalk, as if someone was teaching a lesson. At first, they thought he was making it up. He was an old man, after all. But one day, a private security guard on duty at the school left work at 4 a.m., pale as death. He refused to return and quit that same day. His last phrase, "There was someone standing at the board. He was looking at me, but he had no eyes." The school administration attributed everything to stress, but parents began to notice something strange. An 8th grader came home hysterical. He said that Oleg Nikolaevich had asked him a question in his sleep at night, and he couldn't answer. And in the morning, there was a note on his desk in marker. "Answer is incorrect. Retake at midnight." 2 more teenagers admitted that they had seen him in their dreams. He was sitting at the teacher's desk, leafing through their notebooks, and then slowly looking up. One boy stopped talking after that. Another ran away from class and never returned to school. When an exorcist was called, unofficially, secretly, at the request of some parents, he spent the night in the building. At dawn, he was found in the classroom, sitting in the corner, scratching the wall with his nails. He repeated, "He didn't leave. He's still here, and he teaches. Only now, forever." The police refused to conduct a reinvestigation. They said the case was closed, but one of the night cameras captured a strange image. Darkness, an empty corridor, and then a flash of light, and a clear figure at the door of 2B, a hand reaching for the lock. The silhouette of a man in a jacket. The figure stood as if listening, and then disappeared, leaving noise and static hiss on the camera. In the morning, a note appeared on the board in the office, despite the boarded-up doors. "Check your answers. I already checked, and I didn't like it." Now the students avoid this place. The teachers do not discuss their former colleague, but one question remains in the air. What if the one who knew everything about the fears of his students now teaches them for real, in their dreams, in their notebooks, in their future mistakes. Because trust is more terrible than a knife. It cuts when it is returned back. Exactly 1 year has passed since Oleg Nikolaevich's arrest. The school was trying to come to its senses. New teachers, fresh paint on the walls, psychologists in the classrooms. But something was still wrong. Too many shadows, too much silence. And then, another blow. The math teacher, Stanislav Yuryevich, calm, calculating, who seemed like a real salvation for the senior classes, was arrested right during a test. The students were still solving problems when people in black entered the room, showed a warrant, and put handcuffs on them. He did not resist. He only looked back at the board and calmly said, "The second problem is a tricky one. Don't forget to take into account the fraction." A program was found in his laptop, which was confiscated later. It worked unnoticed. It scanned students' devices via the school Wi-Fi, collected browser cache, click history, passwords from crypto wallets, access to exchanges. Some did not even suspect that they had a wallet. Friends had once installed it as a joke, forgot, but the money remained there, and they disappeared. In total, more than $600,000. But the worst thing was not that. One of the investigators studying Stanislav's correspondence came across a strange chain of letters. The sender, no name, only a symbol. Each letter had instructions, detailed as if someone knew the school's internal system. Cameras, class schedules, inspection dates. The last letter said, "You are second. If you fail, there will be third." And in the attached file is a scan of the class schedule. One day is marked. The history room is circled in red. Now the investigators are afraid again, because all this is not a series of coincidences. It is a system. Someone is building it. Someone who started with the teacher, continued through the mathematician, and has already chosen the next one. And the school? The school lives on. The bell rings. History lesson. The teacher enters the classroom, closes the door, smiles. And in the journal on his desk, under the papers, lies a black flash drive. Continue the next part. The historian who rewrote the biographies of living people?